There are several previous First Amendment recipients in our audience tonight, and I'm just going to list them, and at the end I wish you would applaud with me for them. 2005, then legislator Daniel Hughes, who is now a member of the event committee. 2007, then Dover City Councilor David Scott. 2008, high school journalism advisor Mary DeWinkler. 2010, then Conval School Board member Gail Pearson Cromwell. 2011, Portsmouth Herald reporter Elizabeth Dinan. 2013, then Nashua Telegraph reporter Jonathan Van Fleet. And 2015, last year, former Portsmouth police officer John Connors. We do not give out a Quill and Ink award every year. It is awarded when the judges feel that a nominee is worthy of recognition for outstanding contributions to communications or public awareness of the Constitution. We're going to have a little video now which is going to explain a little about this year's honoree Claire Ebel.
My dad was a union man. He worked for a newspaper. He worked for the old Boston Globe and then the Record American, or maybe it was backwards. But I came home one day from grammar school and found my mother crying. And the television was on. And in those days, television wasn't on during the day. It didn't exist. And I asked her what was wrong, and she said, wait till your father comes home. You know, typical Irish family. And I said, okay. And so after dinner, I said, Daddy, I came home and Mama was crying. Why is she crying? And he said, it's a long story, honey. And he said, it's a man named Joseph McCarthy. And they've called it the Army McCarthy hearings. And so he told me the story of the Union people and others being railroaded, you know, just badly treated. And so I said to him, I don't even remember how old I was, but I was early grammar school. I said, Daddy, what can I do? And he said, well, you could join the ACLU. And so on Saturday, which was his other day off, depending on whether the Sunday edition was big or small, he took me to the bank, and I had $7.83 in my savings account. And I got a check for $3.50, and I joined the ACLU. If I only had one amendment, it would be the first. And the reason is because if you are not free to speak your mind, you are not free, and you will never be free. And if someone in the government, in the school, in the town has the right to shut you up, you're not free. And the First Amendment says they can't do that. They can't shut you up. They can't make you go away. They might not want to listen, but they have to let you speak. And it's just, you know, there were times when we would defend someone, and I would think, this is not a likable person. This is not the sweetest person I've known in my life. But the First Amendment rights of that person are as valid as mine and my children's. And so, yes, we'll defend you. And yes, we're going to win. And we usually did. The fact is, if it's not a violation of law, obscenity, for example, the ACLU, I think, has a responsibility to defend the person speaking it or saying it or writing it or doing it. Because if we don't do it, someone has had his or her First Amendment rights violated, ignored, dismembered, and that's unacceptable, because that First Amendment is sitting there saying, no, Congress shall make no law. No, you can't shut someone up just because you think they're stupid or they're profane or they're whatever they are that you think and you don't like. That's what the First Amendment is. It says to the government, we don't give a rat's ass if they're right or they're wrong. What we care about is their ability to speak. And if you take that away, we don't have much left. I think the rest of the amendments fall if the First Amendment goes. And so you have to keep the First Amendment vibrant and current, and you have to take the cases that nobody wants to mention, and you have to do the things that other people can't or won't do. That's pretty much what the ACLU does.
If Claire Ebel would come up here. Jim Finnegan was a longtime I was reminding Claire, to my chagrin, that Jim Finnegan, our longtime editorial writer, no big fan of the ACLU, once wrote an editorial, and I think it was headlined, "Hear no evil, see no evil, and evil."
How long?
Oh, just a few minutes, yeah.
I'm going to put this thing down, and it's going to break.
No.
No, it won't.
Didn't break
It
for
won't.
Charlie, didn't break.
It didn't break for Charlie. Nothing breaks for Charlie. It is an extraordinary honor to be here, especially in light of who I am and where I am now. I think one of the things that we need to take with us tonight and make a part of our lives is the fact that were it not for Mrs. Loeb, if it were not for Naki Loeb, the school wouldn't exist. And the school is such an extraordinary thing to talk to children, to talk to nonprofit organizations, to teach them how to be expressive, defensive of the First Amendment and the other amendments. They tend to get swept under the rug. But the First Amendment is what keeps us not only free, but civil. And one of the things that I wanted to say tonight, there have been so many beautiful speeches that have been made by so many extraordinary people, Joe among them. And the one thing that I want to do is what I almost always do, which is either make an ass of myself or say something that somebody doesn't like. And that's what's coming. The fact is that the First Amendment, with all of the beauty and all of the extraordinary descriptions that you've heard, to me, the essence of it is to do what you don't want to hear and to defend the things that you don't like. And I thought a great deal about what I wanted to say, and in a room that has so many veterans in it, I hope what you will hear is that I honor you. My brother served in Vietnam and never recovered. I had uncles who served in World War II and would tell you stories. But there's a kid in California who plays professional football, who decided because African American people, his friends and his heritage, were not being treated as well in this country as he felt they should be. His name is Colin Kaepernick. And he started to take a knee. He knelt down at the beginning of the game, the football game, and did not stand for the national anthem. And there were a great many people who were horrified, who were angry, who wanted to, there were threats on his life. The fact is, there were veterans who felt that he dishonored the flag. I think he did just the opposite. I think what he did was honor not only the flag, but the veterans who fight for it, fight under it, and sometimes don't come home. Because he was making a point, and continues to do so, for something that other people don't like. They want you to stand and sing the national anthem at the football game. They want you to honor the flag, and I think we all do. But if we don't defend, if we don't understand, if we don't accept that Colin Kaepernick has the right to express his First Amendment opinions about the United States treatment of African Americans who were his people, then we are the ones dishonoring the flag. He wanted to make his position known, and he suffered on account of it. But it has come to pass that a great many African American football players, a great many veterans have come to his aid and joined him in what he's doing. So with all of the beauty that you've heard tonight about the First Amendment and all of the extraordinary things that have been done and said on behalf of it, think about the stuff you don't like, and think about the people who are saying things you don't like. It's their First Amendment too. And I think it's our responsibility, all of us, to say their First Amendment rights are just as important as mine. Thank you.
They'll get the right award for you, because that's not it. And it's heavy, so watch out. There you go. Claire, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay? I know. We made them smaller.
At my age, this is not.
This is a model from Mrs. Loeb, and we used to have them this size, and nobody could carry them. Now I'm going to introduce Andy Cruz from Auto Fair, who is going to help present the First Amendment Awards, and must be thinking a great deal about the First Amendment these days, because Andy's in a little tussle with somebody who was, I think, abusing the First Amendment and a few other things too. But Andy is a good soldier in many ways, and Auto Fair has been the sponsor of the First Amendment Award itself for quite a while now. Andy, you with us? Hi, Mr. Cruz.
How you doing, sir?
I'm well. Mike is yours.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, well, I'll say Auto Fair's been proud to be able to be the award sponsor, and it's something that's meant a lot to us as an organization, but it has been something for this past year. Joe called and basically said I would understand if it's something that Auto Fair didn't want to move forward with based on your current position. And for those that don't know, I'm in a defamation suit, and it's one of those things when people hide behind the First Amendment and hide behind free speech, it makes you question the First Amendment. And I'll tell you that I really struggled with it for a little bit on what's the rights of individuals as far as the First Amendment will apply, and where does defamation come in, and where does the right of personal individuals come in. As I looked at the absolute freedom to do and say as one pleases, I don't believe that can exist in a society. I think society needs to expert pressure on an individual to curtail their freedoms for the good of all that's within that society. But when I look at the First Amendment, and it was written because since American inception, since it demanded a guarantee of their basic freedoms, their blueprint for personal freedom and the hallmark of an open society, the First Amendment protects those freedoms: the freedom of speech, press, religion, assembly, and petition. Agree to disagree as individuals with the different views. But I do believe most Americans believe in the right to free speech, but debate whether it should cover flag burning, kneeling, hate speech, pornography, solicitation, and various forms of symbolic speech. Many would agree to limiting some forms of free expression that would infringe on another's individual rights. But then you've got a question, and I question myself. Without the First Amendment, religious minorities could be persecuted. The government might well establish a national religion. Protesters could be silenced. The press could not criticize government. And citizens could not mobilize for social change or challenge the status quo or challenge the government. You know, right now, courts wrestle daily with the First Amendment controversies. I'm caught up in a court case myself. And a lot of times, those are constitutional clashes that happen. But I do believe such difficulties are the price of freedom of speech and religion and tolerant society. And it's our responsibility to face those difficulties in order to protect that right. The awards tonight, these people embody what that means. They embody what free speech is all about, and they have challenged in different areas and different ideas of being able to communicate and make sure people are informed, whether it's challenging their government or challenge the fact that people have access to news and media and what is actually involved within their own public space. So I'd like to move in to recognize Donna Green. And as with most of our previous First Amendment award recipients, Donna Green ran into a government obstacle, either while speaking out about public issues or trying to attain information from a public body. She has been involved in several First Amendment and open government cases, including when, as a member of the Timberlane Regional School Board, she successfully challenged a board policy that all members had to publicly support majority decisions. This year, Donna took her own board to court when it refused to release hundreds of pages of budget information to her in digital or electronic form, so she could research how budget decisions were being made. Eventually, the state Supreme Court agreed with Donna that disseminating public, non-confidential information in commonly used electronic formats ensures the greatest degree of openness and the greatest amount of public access to the decisions made by public officials. The court said if legislator disagrees with his ruling, it can change the law. Donna said a change would weaken the right to know law. So as a member of the Right to Know New Hampshire, she'll be watching closely to challenge any attempt to reverse the decision in the State House. Let's learn more about Donna Green.
In her first year on Budget Committee, they had approved a very modest, conservative, restrained budget increase of about 2%, of a fraction under 2%, and everyone was congratulating themselves. Yes, you know, we're being responsible with the taxpayers' dollar. The budget went through town vote, came into force, and that December, people got tax bills, and in Sandown, the tax increase was 10%.
Well, it all began with trying to get control of a budget in a regional district that, where our town is really being hammered by tax increases and a budget that, to me, is going up unjustifiably.
She said, can you do up a spreadsheet that shows the annual budget and the enrollment? And I said, yeah, I can do a spreadsheet. And that was the start.
And our budget has gone up almost in perfect inverse proportion to our declining enrollment. So our budget is going like this, and our student enrollment is going like that. Not unusual in the state, but if the elected officials don't do something to control this, I honestly feel that public education is going to implode.
Donna is one tough customer, and she doesn't give up. And as long as the people in her town keep sending her to serve on that school board, I'm confident she's going to keep pushing, trying to get information, trying to make information public, and trying to influence the debate.
Knowledge is power, and if you don't have the knowledge, you can't possibly have the power.
Closing off the flow of information is no way to get good policy. Good policy comes about when the maximum amount of information is presented to the public and can be vigorously debated in an open forum.
We were at the budget committee at Timberlane Regional School District. We're continually told by the business administrator there that the budget committee has jurisdiction over 20% of the budget because 80% of the budget is contractual obligations with salary and benefits of the staff. But that didn't seem to make sense to me, so I asked to see where these contracts that we're supposedly have no control over. Thus began a very protracted fight over getting staffing detailed information from the Timberlane Regional School District. The Budget Committee isn't given any staffing detail for the budget that they are contemplating. I wanted to understand what was built into that salary line, and the information was just not forthcoming. So as I said, I filed my Freedom of Information request in January 3rd of 2014, and I was told twice that information was not available.
Her school district didn't treat her any better than they would have treated somebody off the street. She had no special rights as far as the board's concerned to any favorable treatment in terms of obtaining information, and frankly, they used every trick in the book that they could find to slow her down. But people who know Donna, I think, would pretty quickly realize that that wasn't going to work. She is one of the most resolute and simultaneously polite people I think I've ever met in my life. She is charming and easy to be around, but she does not give up easily, and she does not take no for an answer when she thinks she's entitled to a yes answer.
I was talking about this problem to a friend of mine in Hempstead, and he said that the Hempstead School Board gets all the staffing information. They know exactly how many positions they're paying for and who they are, and there's complete transparency there. They weren't giving it to Timberlane, but they were giving it to Hempstead. Same software programs, same SAUs, same administrators, everything. So that was the beginning of, okay, I want exactly what Hempstead gets for Timberlane. And and the response was, well, you can come into the office and examine the printouts. I went at one point and had to sit in front of the business administrator's desk while he was there, examining it right in front of him. So they refused to give it to me in an electronic form. They didn't offer to give it to me as a paper copy. And I knew if I insisted, it would be 50 cents a page and a few $100s. Thus, we made a right-to-know petition to the Superior Court. I did it on my own, a pro se application with the help of some people at Right to Know New Hampshire. Unfortunately, I lost my pro se action at Superior Court and then appealed to Richard Lehman to help me take it to the Supreme Court.
Having the information, getting the information and having the right to present an argument doesn't guarantee you're going to win. Doesn't guarantee you're going to convince anybody. But the exercise of getting the information and making the argument is helpful to everyone, including people who oppose what she wants to do. Because if nothing else, it exposes the weaknesses of their arguments, the weaknesses of policies that they propose, and hopefully gives them an opportunity to make their policies better. So even if Donna doesn't win in terms of proposing policies that are adopted, her footprint is throughout everything that happens in that school district. They just can't deny the impact that she has on them. And you can't deny the impact that she's going to have on people throughout the state, because she was willing to go to the Supreme Court. She was able to win up there, and she continues to be a trailblazer in these right-to-know cases for her dogged pursuit of information that absolutely should be known to the public. We all benefit.
The feeling in New Hampshire that individual citizens are so empowered to make changes within their town, within their regional school district, that an individual can go up to the legislature and propose an amendment to a bill and defend it in front of a legislative committee. This is extraordinary, and we feel empowered to do that. It's been a journey, but we're just ordinary people, and we've been able to do that. We've been able to petition for legislative change. We've been able to go to the Supreme Court. It's extraordinary, really, and we love this state. And we're so happy we moved here.
Donna, could you come on up?
You can hold that for a while.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Thank you. That was an extraordinary video, and I'm very grateful. I'm so grateful for this honor, too. It's humbling to be in front of an audience in which so many members deserve recognition for their work to preserve our First Amendment rights. When my husband and I moved to New Hampshire 9 years ago, one of my first organized activities was attending Attorney Sullivan's First Amendment course at the Naki Loeb School. The school very kindly put me in touch with Naki Loeb Fellow Kathy Radford to arrange a carpool. So it's especially pleasing to me tonight to be here with both Attorney Sullivan and Kathy Radford, and without the need of a ride. So, of course, I'd like to thank the Naki Loeb trustees and the selection committee for including me among the wonderful people who have been previously recognized and who sometimes have given the ultimate sacrifice for our First Amendment liberties. I'm deeply honored to be given this award. I'm especially touched to be sharing this award with David Pearl, someone whose story I know as it was unfolding and regret never having met. Sadly, there is a private cost for public battles, and they are battles we do need to fight. So why is it that so many school boards are hell-bent on suppressing free speech from the public and even members of their own board? Why do some think that public information is a commodity that they can dole out at their discretion? Attacks on free speech and corresponding free thought can erupt regularly from school boards around the state. And you would think that elected officials would be on the forefront defending our Constitution, but instead often fall in line with coercive methods to achieve shared goals rather than respecting bedrock principles. Tonight, as a matter of fact, while I'm here, my school board is voting on a policy to limit public comment to only those things that the superintendent permits to be put on the agenda. Although not strictly unconstitutional, it certainly gives the cold shoulder to those who wish to petition their government for redress of grievances. If this is continually happening at the school board level, you have to wonder how much more vigilant we have to be for higher levels of government. And fortunately, I've learned that no one has to fight this battle alone, and I know it because I am the public face of a tremendous support network, and this is where I'm going to give a few thank yous. My husband of 39 years is an equal partner in everything I do. Thank you, Arthur, for making me seem formidable and for giving me a Supreme Court case as an anniversary present. My generous and brilliant lawyer, Richard Lehman of Douglas, Leonard, and Garvey, fights for me with a ferocious conviction, as you saw. Rick took my pro se Superior Court brief and wrung a Supreme Court victory out of it, so we can all benefit from right-to-know information in electronic form. No small part of my story goes to Gilles Bissonnette of the New Hampshire ACLU, who pushed back against the vile Timberlane School Board rules that sought to limit board members' ability to speak to the press or publicly criticize a board decision. Without his early intervention, I likely wouldn't be here tonight. My friends and colleagues at Right to Know New Hampshire were and continue to be a huge help and inspiration to me. David Taylor, Harriet Cady, and David Sod and others helped me draft my pro se brief and have been steadfast advocates for right to know in the state. Ed Nail and Rich Gerard are two other right to know warriors whose help and advice are as important to me as their enduring friendship. And finally, the great people of Sandown who keep electing me and bucking me up with many kind gestures. Ed Mensis, who is here tonight, is to blame for getting me involved with school district politics. Ed, I forgive you. People sometimes ask me and Arthur how we can keep up fighting. You know, it's been an amazing journey that shows the remarkable power of individual citizens in New Hampshire and the very responsive nature of New Hampshire government. When we were first talking about how far we should go with our court case, Arthur said, "If not us, then who? If not us, then who?" When an injured person comes to your door, you can't say, "Go somewhere else." Each of us carries the burden of defending our injured liberties as best we're able. I've learned that there are many good people in this state willing to help, many in this room tonight. Thank you all for what you do, and thank you so very much for this honor.
So our next recipient, David Pearl, even before he landed in the news this year for pressing school officials in Pembroke for answers about the drug arrest of a school administrator, David Pearl was the perfect nominee for the Naculo First Amendment Award. Over the years as a volunteer, Pearl was on many town boards and committees in Hooksett. He was instrumental in opening Hooksett town government to its residents by updating the town's online system to live stream public meetings for all to see. He created an online group in Hooksett that gave residents an outlet to post thousands of their own articles about town happenings. Pearl spoke out when he felt officials were not following the right-to-know law or were trying to silence public comment. Earlier in this year, he was at odds with the school officials at Pembroke Academy, where his daughter is a student, over the way they informed the public about the arrest of the dean of students on drug charges. David died of a heart attack in June, with the Pembroke issue unresolved. Last month, the Pembroke School Board chairman assured the American Civil Liberties Union of New Hampshire that the board no longer would censor critical comments from the public during its meeting, so long as the comments are relevant to the agenda item. David Pearl will not be there, but the ACLU promises it will monitor how the board implements its policy to ensure that people do not have their free speech rights violated in the future. Let's learn more about David in the video.
David Pearl is first and foremost a family man. He loved his wife very much, and he adored his daughters, and we're very, very proud of his daughters. He considered him, he always told me that they were his rock. And those were his words, that they were his backup. So he wouldn't do anything unless they approved of it. He was also an intense volunteer in town, always willing to do whatever it took to advance Hooksett, for the betterment of Hooksett and its citizenry. He was always thinking about the citizens in town. He's all about accountability. He's all about transparency. And so when he's not seeing someone being unaccountable, he called them on that. There was another issue where the last issue before he passed away was at the Pembroke School Board, where there was a situation with a right-to-know request where the superintendent kind of botched an effort to do that, and the school board was kind of not willing for him to speak at that. They actually called the police department to have him arrested. There was actually a plainclothes police officer there. He approached and said, "I don't want to arrest you. I have no reason to arrest you." And so he called his two supervisors, who came in the next few minutes or whatever, and they spoke. They were standing in front of Dave while the school board meeting was still going on. They adjourned, went to the hallway, which is an illegal meeting, and the police officers talked to him and I for 10, 15 minutes, and we reasoned with the officers that you either arrest me or you tell me why I can't read this letter, which is a public document. Again, to me, that's extraordinary. In the end, the police department kind of sided with Dave, and we all walked away without further incident. At the next meeting, which I did not attend, but at the next meeting, he was then allowed to read the public document. So he succeeded in getting the school board to actually be accountable for their actions. The legacy is that meetings are done properly now, at the school board especially. You know, now there's cameras in there, mounted cameras where there weren't cameras there before. He was instrumental. He was the first person in town, because he owned a videotaping business, Spotlight Video. The town did not have videotaping capability. We don't have cable television or anything. So he took it upon himself to volunteer his services in town to come to all the meetings, or most meetings, police commission, town council, school board, and videotape the meetings so that the citizens can see it on his blog. He also created a citizenry-based blog called Hooksett Issues, where citizens can go onto that blog and speak their opinions and provide information on anything that's happening in Hooksett. And we often had some very lively discussions on Hooksett Issues. That Hooksett Issues blog still exists. I'm one of the moderators for it, so people are still contributing to that. That's an enormous legacy as far as I'm concerned. And those are based on his creations, his thinking outside the box, again, with the intention of improving the betterment of Hooksett and the citizenry. We've lost a person who took a keen eye on the virtues of government and tried to make it better. And at every meeting, when he's not there, he's already missed. You knew Dave was going to be there and speak his position. We always valued that. Again, there are some people in town who didn't, and I hope they see things differently now. But for the most part, most of the town appreciates and thanks Dave's efforts. Everyone should hold elected officials or appointed officials or the town government or staff at the administration. Everyone should be accountable for what they do. And making them realize it's not about them. It's about the citizens that they serve. Dave was terrific at that.
We would ask that Mark Meville come up and accept this honor on behalf of David.
Well, thank you very much. That's pretty much my whole speech. I did want to thank the sponsors, and I am thrilled and honored and humbled to accept this award for David in the request of his wife, who is here, but asked me to speak. I've met Dave In 2007, we were joining a board together, and we were very, very close ever since then. There maybe not have been a day or so that we didn't speak after that. We'd meet or talk on the phone and try to solve the world's problems or the town's problems and talk about politics and the nature and foundations of government. And he was always trying to look for improvements for transparency and made strong efforts to do that. As the video stated, he was in a good position being a videographer. When he started videotaping meetings that were, at the time, discreet, and if only 5 people showed up in a meeting, the rest of the town did not see what was going on. The moment he started videotaping meetings and putting it on the Hooksett Issues blog, that changed the aspects of Hooksett entirely. Got more people involved, more people interested in the government, and more people coming to vote and expressing their opinions to their town officials. So he made a significant and singular contribution to that, and always felt that he encouraged all the freedoms here that were expressed so eloquently tonight. I'm sorry I didn't bring props tonight like the other ones did, but what I did bring tonight, and I hope that we all brought here tonight, is a heartfelt appreciation for the First Amendment. On another lighter note, to speak to the other speakers here, I would to perhaps bring it to another 5 degrees of appreciation at this point, or association. I also graduated from St. A's. And also, Dave and I, when Dave left the school board after a very tumultuous 3 years, kind of also was in the papers and whatnot all the time, Dave called me one day and said, let's do something different. Let's take a course at the Naki Loeb School of Communications, which is what we did, and we enjoyed it. And also regarding the ACLU, as the speaker here said it recently, that the ACLU contributed greatly to Dave's efforts as well at the Pembroke School Board. And so I bring that with that as well. I was asked about the legacy, and I speak briefly about it on the video, but his legacy goes to even to the minute details. He thought outside the box of things that other people on the board or in the public didn't think of. He was always thinking about how to make things better. And so when I was asked about his legacy, again, it's the improvements of what's happening in town or in the state. He would personally go on to the radio talk shows, Rich Gerard, and I thank Richard for nominating him for this award. I much appreciate that. But he also wanted to reassert the foundations of government and governance. So when he videotaped those meetings, he saw the impact and made it happen. And I remember the first meeting we went to in a Hooksett meeting, a police commission meeting, and the chairman said, you can't tape this video meeting. You can't videotape this. He didn't know the rules. We were telling them what the rules were. And so that brings the legacy, even to a minute detail when he was on the Hooksett School Board, and the agenda was so long because he proposed 15 different things on the agenda, and they would all go, oh my God, it's 11 o'clock at night, can't we get out of here? He would even at one point, and this is part of his legacy as well, he wanted to reconfigure the tables of where the school board sat and the principals and the staff and the note taker, in such a way that because the tables were kind of like off to the side, and so you couldn't see half the board. And so he proposed a reconfiguration of the board meeting so that the tables all faced the camera and the audience, so that everybody could see what was going on. And that configuration still stands today. I was at a board meeting just last week, and that configuration, when I went there, I said, there's Dave's table, still existing. So, again, I want to thank the sponsors again for having this, and I greatly accept with honor and humbleness. And Dave would be thrilled about this recognition and so humbled by this. And knowing Dave as I do, I know he would love to be here for this and to speak in front of all of you as well. So, again, he loved to provide public input. Even if he wasn't serving on a board, he would attend a lot of meetings, and he even at one point asked for another edition. There used to be public input at the beginning of the meeting. He petitioned for public input at the end of the meeting for things that happened during the meeting. And he never made any comments. He always made sure, because he was getting also a lot of criticism on social media from some citizens who didn't appreciate what he was saying, right, as we were talking earlier. But he would always stick to the facts, always very respectful, and he never took it personally. And he hoped that they didn't take it personally either. But he would love the debate back and forth on social media, but always sticking to the facts. Even though they were vilifying him back at him, he would always stick to the facts, knowing that the facts are right. You can be honest, you can be truthful, you can be accurate, and you can be right at all times. The people who are not right, there's always a saying, right? If the facts are on your side, you pound the facts. If the facts are not on your side, you pound the table. We didn't like the people who pounded the table. Okay, so he provided leadership on the school board and on the budget committee, which I served with him as well. He was always dedicated to the rules and procedures, laws and processes, and he wanted to lead, to conduct proper meetings according to where they should be during meeting deliberations, and always wanting to work with his fellow officials to do things the right way. He was committed to his principles and to his convictions almost to a fault, to do the right thing and what was right. He regularly was known to be submitting right-to-know law requests, and he was famous for that. And like the other presenter, got results because of it. And I learned a lot from David Pearl. As much as I sat with him often, spoke to him often, he enhanced me. He made me better at what I was doing in the town as well. So I just want to thank you for this opportunity again, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Andy, for this. Thank you, Brendan McQuaid, for these fine videos. I am so happy to hear tonight's speakers and that what Mrs. Loeb envisioned for her school is actually happening, with people taking advantage of the courses there, which are mostly for free, to learn how to exercise their First Amendment rights. It's a great little school. David Tiro-Wysocki does a tremendous job as the director of it. You saw Mrs. Loeb when Mr. Meeville was speaking. She was looking over his shoulder a couple of times. I think that was Brendan's work. Just a great job. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and safe ride home, and we'll do it again next year.